Yeah, my name's Don Capria, and I'm the author of Colombo, the Unsolved Murder, and I am chatting with Stacks.
And a major organized crime bust. 23 people under arrest now accused of stealing guns and cash.
Today, police revealed 4 organized crime groups are wreaking havoc.
From aggravated robbery to kidnapping, burglary, and more. Let's take a look at this. New pictures from court documents in this case. These are a few of the people who have been charged, and investigators say the money, tens of thousands of dollars, is all stolen.
FBI, open up! Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Stacks. I'm your host, Bill Stacks, and today I got Don Capria.
Lady Gaga and Taylor Swift could not do that with a free concert tomorrow. So there was a lot of stuff that was happening in the Italian American community. And I think at that time, the rise of the civil rights movement, was also, there's so much energy that was happening. And Joe tapped into that. And a lot of people didn't know that. A lot of people think Joe Colombo, they think about the few stories that were printed on him. He was shot in Columbus Circle by Jerome Johnson. Gallo or Gambino could have been behind it. And that he was involved in the possible Bonanno coup of the Profaci crime family when things were going south in the early 1960s. And he was the one who went with the information to tell Carl Gambino that they were going to try to have him killed. Those are like the few things that you hear about it. But, the book dives into so much more. And the tale of the book spends most of its time examining the conspiracy theories about who could have been behind the shooting of Joe Colombo, which is, to me, the most interesting thing, because there was never evidence presented. I interviewed the cop that took the gun out of Jerome Johnson's hand and discharged that weapon and was on his back and took Jerome Johnson to Roosevelt Hospital where he died. And his name was Giuliani Schiozzi. He was NYPD, maybe second year on the force at the time. He told me in 40-something years, I'm the first person to interview him about that incident. So the NYPD, the FBI never even pulled this guy in to interview him about, and I just could not believe the lack of research that was done on that crime scene, on all of that. They had a narrative already pre-written, they plugged it in, and that was it. John Q. Public was just eating it up like they were watching a Sam and the Bull podcast.
Yeah. Did you get to the bottom of who killed Joe Colombo, and what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are very similar to JFK. I don't have enough evidence to have a smoking gun, but I have a loaded one where I think that this was two different agencies working together with people in organized crime, and I would think that would be Greg Scarpa. I think that this was COINTELPRO with CIA. I think the NYPD was a pawn in all this, and they leaked a certain amount of information, valuable information, specific information to the NYPD so that Chief of Detectives Albert Seidman could have conclusion. Like, oh my God, this has to be this because this information that's coming to me lines up. And that is the genius of the CIA and the COINTELPRO program from Hoover. So you add Scarpa to the mix, who is your inside man, and you're able to perform this just the same way you did for JFK 10 years prior.
Yeah, and a pretty seamless crime. Now, the guy that did it is dead. There's no questioning him. There's no way to bring it back to the source.
Right. Yeah, who did he speak with? Where was he getting this money from? Seidman was a great detective, right? Why did you really think that Jerome Johnson was picking up the satchel with the money in that junket? So play that out for me. And why would Jerome Johnson think that he's going to pull the trigger, pick up a satchel with 50 G's and walk out of the most heavily policed area in New York City? Like, who believes that? Like, who? And I couldn't. And that was, one of the first things that we talked about in the initial interview when I was up at the diner was, I just don't buy this story that everyone is just kind of like walking past like that's what happened.
Yeah, and then one of Joe Colombo's bodyguards kills him, right?
Yeah, it was believed. I don't know this factually that Chubby Rosario was the person who pulled the trigger. Again, do they have conclusive evidence? No, because they would have arrested him. So it was believed that he was the person that shot Jerome Johnson in the back. And again, Jerome Johnson did not die right there. He lived in the ambulance all the way to Roosevelt Hospital and sat inside a room with two officers, one of them Giuliani Schiozzi, and he passed away in that room before doctors gave him care.
Wow. So now, what was after the book's released and you guys are doing book signings and all that? How long was it until Anthony passed away?
It was a little over a year. So he ended up having some problems. He was 2 hip surgeries. He was diabetic, so he ended up having some problems after our Florida signing. And he's like, I want to just go home. And he didn't really say anything to me. He said, I just want to go home, take a breather. We're going to cancel doing anything for a little while. And he was the boss. So I just said, okay, no problem. We'll pick it up when you're ready. I didn't think anything of it until months and months later. I think he let me know that he had to go in for a surgery. So what happened was something was wrong, and it escalated. And I think because he's a dinosaur, he didn't get it tended to right away. And then it got to the point where he needed real medical care and inpatient medical care, multiple surgeries. And that went on for almost a full year. So I would fly out to San Diego and visit him in the different hospitals that he was in. And then he was in rehabilitation. And then he came home right, I think around the time of Christmas 2016. So the book had been out for a full year at that point. And about 1 week after New Year's, he passed away in his sleep. I know that his wife was home, and she said that he had passed away in his favorite chair. And it was not like, complication from surgery or anything like that. So I guess it was heart failure would have been the cause, but it was very sad for me. I'll never forget, getting the calls from a buddy of mine, because a couple of my close people were also close with members of the family and whatnot. So when I got the call, I couldn't believe it. Again, wishing I had this infinite amount of time with him. So many phone calls with him, so many things shared. Because, as a writer, I'm moving on to other projects and doing things. And, he and I are just constantly in communication. The conversations we had and the chemistry that we had in speaking with one another did not live within the book. It moved its way into regular life as well.
Yeah, like you guys were friends. You guys built a connection.
Yeah.
So what was your direction after that? Where did you go?
Yeah, again, my agent had passed away. So I was without agent. I tried shopping for a new one. I was thinking about doing the Frankie Yale story because it was always something that I was very much into. As Yale reared Al Capone, so the biggest gangster in the country that anyone's ever known. This was the guy that reared him. And I didn't have enough information and time to write out a book proposal, and I had gotten an offer to direct a pilot for some reality thing, and I think I just kind of went where the money was going. So I got involved in music again, which was always something I was involved with on the music management side. I was a drummer in bands when I was young, and then I became a manager. So I did some music videos. I shot some reality tape, and then I got involved in the music business again for like close to a decade. And then I took a departure from that and started writing again, worked on a gangster project that I have, a television show, which is about to go into shop soon. I worked on that all throughout COVID. And then I just finished directing my first feature film, which is a horror. So I have a love for true crime and especially in the mob world, but I also love horror movies. Anything where someone's dying within the story, I'm in.
Yeah, it's like a plethora of things that you do.
Yeah.
One of the questions I had that I forgot to ask you is, did you ever get any threats when you were working on these projects? Because around that time, around 2003, around that time, it was still like a no that you talk about this type of stuff.
Yeah, no, I left that all to the people that were involved in helping make this book, which was Anthony and Ray. And, I think Anthony did a very good job of being respectful to people that were alive and people that were involved, and keeping this as this father-son story and this biography on his father without, putting anybody in harm's way. So I think that I left that end up to them. I think the only thing I was really not afraid of, but the thing that I thought could harm me was that I was going to speak out against these FBI programs. and some of the illegal activities that they were doing. And I wondered, what my run-ins would be with them. But I signed up for it, and it was kind of like, all right, well, bring it. The more you come for me, the more I know I'm right.
Yeah. And you didn't have any trouble?
No. I interviewed a couple of FBI agents. I interviewed a former CIA agent. I interviewed guys in the street. I interviewed so many people, and I never really had a problem. I think, once people got to meet me and we started talking, they were a little bit settled on like what my intentions were, that I wanted to be a factual writer. I wanted to get a good story out. I didn't want to harm anybody. So the only hate that ever came from the book could possibly be someone that's never met me, probably didn't read the book, and it's just some form of jealousy or whatnot.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
Yeah.
Do you think some of these people that have podcasts that have cooperated have a sense of complacency, like they can't get hurt?
For sure. I think that's evident in the numerous amounts of people that don't. I think there is a lack of responsibility to taking care of snitches today that didn't exist in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s. You go back to the murder INC days, and they were cleaning house. There was hundreds and hundreds of guys getting killed just for the thought that they might rat. And I think now we live in this era today where, like, these guys are just, out and about, spreading their wings. They have badges. Let's not forget that. If you touch one of these guys, it's like touching a federal officer. So they know they have their little badge on, back to the Tekashi thing. It's like, why doesn't Tekashi go? Well, Tekashi's got security through the roof. And if you touch him, you're touching a federal witness,
Well,
so
he did get beat up in a
bathroom. What happened to those guys?
I don't know. We really didn't hear
what's the
nothing
follow?
else.
I don't care about him enough to look into it, but I would think that that's a deterrent is that these guys are, they're law enforcement. As far as I'm concerned, you're law enforcement. You are a cop. You just don't have the honor that the cops have, where like they set out for this to be their life. Like, I have a lot of respect for guys that are in law enforcement, because that's their side of this. It's like you look at a lot of the criminals and arrests and things that are happening, and it's really crazy today, right? It's very disorganized, right? Well, that didn't happen. Sorry, boss. The Zoom Zoom's got the effects going. That didn't happen a long time ago. Guys, they went to their house, they cuffed them up, they walked out like gentlemen, they were suited up, showing up for trial, and I think the dismantling of organized crime became the foundation for disorganized crime. You cannot have both. When you get rid of the structure of organized crime, you create the structure for disorganized crime. And that's why you have all these wild kids and guns and the snitching is out of control. The street play is out of control. It's society is definitely deteriorating on that side, and all for what? So that a Giuliani could, have a higher position. I mean, we saw what type of human being he was. If you didn't know that, I knew that back in the 90s and the 80s. If you didn't know that guy was bad back then shame on you.
Yeah, I mean, now they got goofies doing crazy shit. They couldn't be gangsters in the street, so now they want to be gangsters on YouTube. It's just,
it's crazy.
I think it's a comedy show.
It is with bad actors.
Yeah, definitely. So, what are your plans for the future?
Currently just finished filming this horror film that comes out in theaters in September. It's called Director's Cut, and it's about a young band going off to shoot a music video, and shit goes south for them very fast. And then for the Colombo project, we've been talking a lot as of late, because I think it was the 50th anniversary of the shooting a few years ago, and we wanted to start trying to organize a documentary on that. And I think I'm going to also get in touch with the folks that are doing the League documentary and see if I could lend some information and a lot of the paperwork and research I've done on that subject. So I'll stay within the crime and the horror world for the next decade, bouncing between projects and trying to make interesting story for people to either watch, read, or listen to.
Yeah, I've been involved with this for about 3 years, and I love it, man. I love diving into all this information and talking to different people. It's a great career, you know.
Yeah, it's a good conversation. I'm glad. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, definitely. And can you do a promotional thing where you introduce yourself? You could say your book name, and then just say, "And I'm chatting with Stacks."
Yeah. Yeah, my name's Don Capria, and I'm the author of Colombo, the Unsolved Murder, and I am chatting with Stacks.
Perfect. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. And if you have any video or pictures I could put in, I'll do that. And do you mind if I use some of the clips from when you interviewed Anthony and put in this?
Yeah, no, that's cool. Totally.
All right, cool. I just want to make sure, you know.
Yep.
You know, some people could be iffy about that, and I just
just if anything, you know how you put like, if you could tag it, put the @ and just put Colombo book, you know, as like so people know what the source of it is.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I'll overlay it. I'm gonna make this look really cool. It'll look like a mini documentary.
Yeah, give me 24 hour. I told you I had to go to a 2 today. So I'm gonna leave my office for a while. But give me till tomorrow and I'll get a little folder of assets to you.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, and can you tell the people where they can find your book?
Yeah, so the book is available on Amazon. It's probably the easiest place for people to source it. You would just go into the search bar, Colombo, the Unsolved Murder, and that's sold in a paperback, or you can get the ebook. And you could follow Colombo Book on Instagram for some photos, which we post every few days. And I think it's the same YouTube search as Colombo Book, and that would have Anthony Colombo's tapes. And then myself, I have my own personal Instagram. It's just my name, Don Capria.
Cool, man. I look forward to seeing some more things from you in the future.
Yeah, man. Love to come back on when they're ready.
Yeah, definitely. I got a couple pilots I'm working on. Maybe I could use some of your knowledge on it.
You writing?
Yeah, I wrote a whole script for a TV series.
Nice. Yeah, it's not easy.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
but it's fun. It's fun. I got a movie script I wrote, and I got a TV series.
Yeah, the movie I just finished, I also wrote it. So I directed it and I wrote the script. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot
I'm
of
willing
work,
to put it in. I've been building my camera, you know, and it's a lot of money too.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. Yeah.
All these little pieces you're putting on it. It's like, fuck.
Yeah.
It's more than a damn car. Fucking
it does.
Camera.
Yeah, it does.
All right, man. Definitely, I appreciate this. And is there anyone else you want to give a shout out to before we go?
Yeah, to Ray Vanacore, who got me the book originally, and a good buddy of mine, and then also Anthony Colombo Jr., who was one of the most supportive people while working with his father for this book.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you, and I'll talk to you in the future. And if you guys like this content, hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can get my videos every time they drop. And if you don't like this content, too bad, start your own podcast. Peace. Thanks, man.
On June 28, 1971, my father was shot in Columbus Circle. I read a dozen books that claimed to know what happened that day and who my father was, but none that offered a shred of evidence. After 40 years, I thought it was time to tell the true story as I lived it. My father taught me almost everything I needed to know in life. He taught me to respect everyone, from the bum on the street to the President of the United States and everyone in between. He told me to take care of my family no matter what it takes. He taught me everything I needed to know about being an Italian American. All of these things were very important to him, but the one thing he never prepared me for in life that I wish he had treachery.